Dear Father, can you hear me? I'm all alone and I'm feeling empty. I'm paranoid, so I keep the blicky. Had to leave you in the past, cause you won't rhyme with me. Dear Father, can you hear me? I'm all alone and I'm feeling empty. I'm paranoid, so I keep the blicky. Had to leave you in the past, cause you won't rhyme with me.
Dreaming, but I'm still woke. Praying, but I'm losing hope. Standing, but I'm falling slow. I'm all alone, you wouldn't know. Picture me rolling, got them bands on me. Like Cuban Link.
Shout out to dads everywhere. I'm Lennox's dad, James.
I'm JV and Devin's dad, John.
Welcome to another episode of Present Pillars. So we started this movement to highlight all aspects of fatherhood, the good, the bad, and the ugly. If you don't remember anything about this show, just remember, the best dad you can be is a present dad. So today our guest is a pillar in every sense of the word. He's been a husband of 28 years, preacher of 28 years, pastor of 7, community activist for 28 years. Seems like 1993 was a great year for you.
It's a good year.
Yes, sir. How you doing?
I'm good. Glad to be here, and thank you for having me. It's good to be with the both of you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We're blessed to have you here. So let's get this thing going. Just tell us a little about yourself.
My name is Maurice Mcafee. Affectionately call me Mo. Grew up in Eau Claire on the farm. Husband, father. Just all around different things. Man, love people. That's pretty much the most about me.
Okay. And then.
What was that like? You say you grew up on the farm, so.
Oh man, it was awesome to me. I mean, I tell people all this day with what I'm learning now and where the world is going now, I'm glad I know how to plant a seed and grow some food, because as you see going into the different stores now with all of the lack of people driving trucks, the stores don't have a lot of food in it. So I really know how to grow my own food, and I know how to process it. From if I was going to eat meat, I know how to process the meat, and I definitely know how to grow the food. The biggest thing I'm learning how to do now before my mother leaves this earth is can. So, it was good. It just taught me a lot of work ethic at an early age. We grew up on a farm. Didn't always have a lot of money, so we cut wood. We had an oil furnace and a wood furnace. And my father burned wood at night. He didn't burn no oil, so that means we had to cut wood in the winter, stack it, get up in the middle of the night, stoke the fire to make sure it was warm, get our butt up and go to school. So, I enjoyed it. It was lovely to be on it. I mean, you learn so much, drive a tractor, all of the above.
Okay, well, tell us about your father.
My father was awesome, man. He was old school. He grew up in Mississippi, moved to Missouri, then from Missouri to Eau Claire, Michigan, built his own house, amassed 9 to 11 acres of land, all while probably not receiving a third grade education at the time. Wow. It was probably when he really got to Michigan at this time, he was able to improve his education. So we got here in 1950. And so, I grew up in Eau Claire. He bought the home for us, taught us about hard work, never shied away for standing up for what's right. At the time I came along, probably about 3 years later, Eau Claire was like most places in the 60s. You couldn't go in and eat or do anything. And my father was one of those people who changed the culture in Eau Claire, where blacks no longer had to go into the back door.
Wow.
He literally fought for that. I remember police coming to our houses, put him in the back of the car, but that never deterred him for standing up for what was right. He's always been that type of guy. Awesome dad. Never met anybody he wouldn't help. Even when my friends came over from school and they didn't have any money, he put money in their pocket. And it wasn't like he had a lot of money either. And they would come over, he'd make hamburgers for them. My dad was just one of those guys he was a real man, strong in every sense of a man. Took care of my mom. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. She probably never worked more than 6 years in her life. I can always remember somebody being at home when we came home. And so those were just the things. He just taught us about life. He taught about working, taught about standing up for what's right. And most of all, the best thing that he gave us was introducing us to the Lord Jesus Christ. He taught us different things. We weren't perfect, but we owed humanity. We owed somebody for something. If God did something for us, we owed it to pass along. He taught us about sharing. When they would share crop or kill animals in the fall for harvest time, everybody on that street would get something. So my dad was awesome. I just learned so much from him.
It sounds like that you took a lot from him. So when you're describing him, I'm looking at you like I'm thinking of you, right? Hardworking black father, loves the Lord, loves the people around him, loves his kid. So you can tell that you followed his direction quite closely.
He had an impact. I mean, he had impact, and I tell men all the time, you have an impact on your kids. Whether you're there or not, you have an impact. I was just blessed for my father to be at home. He had a great impact. I had to write a paper in 5th grade. I'll never forget it, of who your hero was. And that's who my paper was on. It was on my dad. He was my hero. I love Superman, Batman, DC Comics, and all of them, but that was the first black Superman for me, was my dad. He made things happen. I didn't know we were poor. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I never knew we were considered what you would consider poor, because there was never a time that we went without. There was never a time that we went to school, we didn't have lunch money. So that he is, and I learned how to be a man from him and to take care of my family.
And he was a pastor too?
He was a pastor. He served the church that I'm at now. He served for a total capacity of 54 years. He was 44 years as the pastor, and he served 10 years as assistant pastor. And if you think about it, a lot of our roles are the same. I served him as his assistant pastor for 10 years, and now I'm the pastor. So a lot of our roles have been similar, but I always know I can never fulfill his shoes. I can only be the best me off the things that he taught me.
Absolutely.
But he taught me a whole lot.
So you say influential, right? So I can tell that about you too. I had the privilege of meeting Jaron, your son, your oldest son, when we were in 7th grade. So funny story, we always, so every time there was a time where somebody needed to pray, right? And they say, well, who gonna pray? Where Jaron at? And what I tell you, even as a 7th grader, like Jaron, I grew up in church, right? But Jaron could get up and preach anywhere about anything, appropriate or inappropriate. Jaron was gonna preach. Jaron was gonna preach. So, but just a funny story.
Full circle.
But right.
Yeah.
So, but how many kids do you have?
I have 4. 2 boys, 2 girls. Jaron's oldest, then the baby girl is the last.
Okay.
When did you have your first kid?
Had my first kid 17. 1989, Jaron was born. February 19th, I was 17. I was turning 18 in April. So I had him right before I turned 18, and I was graduating in June of that year of 89.
A young father. Tell
Young
me how
father.
that affected you.
Oh man, it played a major role on my last year of high school. It affected my sports, all of those things, because I was wondering how I was going to tell my dad. I was going to go home and tell my mom,
my next question.
Hey, I got this girl pregnant. You know how I'm going to go home and tell them all of that. So, I was hiding it as well as I could be. But it's something about them old school parents, man, that didn't none get past them. So I happened to have my wife now to be, but my girlfriend at the time, she was going to a football game. And my mom said, after I got home that night, my mom said, hey, tell that girl she need to put some socks on carrying your child. I said, what are you talking about? She said, baby, she pregnant as all outdoors. And she wasn't even 3 months or showing, but my mom knew.
Was it the nose?
I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was, but she really, I had just found out. I'm saying she wasn't showing her nothing. But mom was like, baby, tell her to put some socks on. She can't be out here like that. So it was a struggle because, I thought maybe I had disappointed my dad, my family. People are always hard on preachers' kids.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Like they kids save and don't do nothing either. But I understood the role, and I didn't ever want to disappoint my dad and give people things to throw at him. So I struggled with it. I struggled with it for a long time. I denied it. I finally went on ahead and told my mom and my dad was like, boy, life happens. I'm the pastor, not you. You got to grow, and I got you.
Wow.
I'm going to take care of you. He said, the only thing I can tell you is you got to make up your mind what you're going to do. Your money is no longer coming out of this house, so you don't get no money now. When your baby is born, all the money I gave you goes to your son till you get yourself together. And so that helped me when my mom and dad was like, hey, just be the best dad. So them embracing me and saying, son, it happens. It's not what we wanted for you, but we love you. Just be a good dad. And so that helped me to get through that high school year. My grades kind of went down because I'm trying to process all of this. How am I going to do this? My plans was go straight to college or do whatever. How am I going to do this? Do I want to leave my son behind and leave this on his mother and ruin her plans? Because she was a brilliant student at Ben Harbor High School. Nursing was in her future. She was already going to the dual classes at that time. And she was working at the nursing home on Empire at that time. They had a training program from Ben Harbor. So she was well on her way in her nursing career. And I was just stressed out about it. And then I was on my way to the Army. I was like, well, I'm just gonna go to the Army and do this. And I just couldn't leave my kid.
Right.
I was saying he gonna have good money if I go to the Army. He gonna have good insurance. But the one thing, I guess it was God talking to me at that time, he wasn't gonna have was his dad. So I made a choice to stay here and do the best I can to make sure that I was present for him like my dad was present for me.
So you played the long game. So in my day job, I work with young fathers, right? And that's one of the things that I struggle to get them to understand is playing the long game. Yes, you had a kid earlier than expected or earlier than you wanted to, right? But here we are, right? So playing the short game is only going to make you not present.
Right.
Right. So for one of them, he wants to go off to HBCU and play in the band, right? But what about your kids, right? Kids.
Multiple.
What are you going to do, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that's a huge thing.
Well, you know, I tell what I've in pastoring, I've had to talk to people both ways, and kind of what I tell them is you have to find that fit for you. And where are you with the relationship with the mom? Are you guys in a relationship where even though you're HBC, but you can maybe move her down where you are,
right,
and then have that going? Mm-hmm. So I try to give them different options on that one because I don't want them to stay here and then they can't meet their destiny either.
Right.
I think for me, my destiny was to be here.
Right.
I think that's why I did not leave, was because I was meant to be here. I do know if I would have left, things would have been totally different. My kids would have been different. My assignment would have been different. Everything would have been different. But I had to learn to play the long game because I knew for me, I got in a whole lot of trouble with two parents. The last thing I wanted my kids was dealing with was no dad around. Because the way we grew up, I was probably more afraid of my mom to a degree, but I was terrified of my dad. I probably got more whoopings from my mother, but I was terrified of my dad. My dad had to be at least 6'1", 6'2". He had big hands. He was a farm hand. So, you know, they was, as we would say back in the day, cock strong. And so,
hey, it's funny. If I close my eyes, you describing my dad. Hey, you ever met my dad? I feel like you just described him. That's so funny.
And so I was afraid to just mess up, and I knew for my son, because your kids are a product of you.
Yeah.
And so I know my son, and I know me, and so I was like, nah, Jaron can't be out here without me, because that's gonna get him in some trouble. Right. So I need to be around. So when I hear him going nuts, I can just, because you guys as fathers, we know, they can be talking to their mothers and they'll be on a little different tilt. But when they hear your voice, everything's straightened up when they come back to the room. Yep. And so I always want to make sure that I would be there to make sure that happened, even if I wasn't with her.
Right.
You know, and at one point in time, we weren't together. Even when we were married, we split up for a moment. And I was like, and I had opportunities to go do ministries, man. I had an opportunity to go to Minnesota and really launch another ministry. And everybody thought I was crazy. I was like, man, I can't leave my kids, man. Right. And I said, I prayed to God, and God told me I had to take that assignment. So I stayed here. But I mean, I had a lot of opportunities to do different things. Sometimes I was mad and felt like I regretted them because I felt like I was losing out because I wasn't getting the jobs that I wanted. I mean, it was just stressful. Because, you know, as we know, as black men, we don't get much wiggle room. Yeah. You know, we don't get much grace. I mean, even for the ones that do what they're supposed to do, our margin of error is very small.
Can you say that part one more time?
For black men, our error, the margin of error is very small because we've been vilified by so many people. And that's one of the things that I try to stress to our sisters. You're the last line of defense. Man. I can't get beat up by the world, by the system, and then come home and get beat up by you. I gotta come home and somebody build me back up. Mm-hmm. Even if I've had the wrong day and made the wrong choices, you gotta be the one to build me back up because I'm fighting everybody else. I can't come home and fight you and this too. Right, yeah. And so just learning how to navigate all of that, man. So while we were split up, you know, I had the kids, not because she was a bad mom, but we didn't get a chance to talk about that. But I guess just it came out. I took my kids for like a year and a half because their mom worked third shift. No, she worked second shift. I did not want my kids having to come out at 11 o'clock at night, to go home, and things were getting a little rough at that time. And I didn't want her trying to figure out how to take 2 kids out of the car, sleep. So I says, I'll keep them. You come get them on the weekend. And that's kind of how I also found a new appreciation for what mothers do. Because I was the mother, pretty much the father mother, Monday through Friday. I learned how to do hair. I learned how to do all of that stuff because that was my daughter. And I didn't want any other women over her at that time because me and her mother just split up. Last thing I need to do was bring somebody else in some jungle. So I learned how to adjust and do the things that I need to do for my kids. And then when their mom went back to first shift, they went back and moved with her. But that's what men do. We make the necessary adjustments that our kids survive because we're built for that. We're built to be warriors. We're built to take tough things. We're built to stand tough times. There's no weakness in us. We kings. You know, we come from, our ancestors come from great stuff. And so I take pride of being that type of man who is the king of his castle and can look at his princess or his prince and know that they're going to eventually take that role in the family line somewhere.
Right. So you spoke about the assignment. First off, that was
Man,
amazing, right?
I'm about to go watch this. It's like a sermon.
You spoke about the assignment and knowing the assignment. When did you know you were going in to be a pastor?
Man, probably, it's a weird story. Probably right after I got married, I started feeling this tug on me. Like, what is going on in my life? I just kept saying, hear some say, ministry. And I kept saying, absolutely not. You know, being a son of a pastor, I want no parts of that stuff. People are ungrateful no matter what you do. The very ones you serve are the very ones that cut your throat. I've witnessed all of that stuff on the other side. People talk about the church hurt that people get from pastors. People need to take a deep look at the church hurt that pastors' kids get from other members because they don't like the pastor.
Wow. I never thought about that.
Talk to me.
And many of times we were singled out and picked on because we were the pastor's kids, lied upon for no other reason because they knew my dad was going to discipline and get us in trouble. The blessed part that happened to me, I didn't hate church because what could have happened to me, I easily could have hated church out of all the devious stuff that people did to us because we were just the pastor's kids. You know, I've learned to go through that, but how I started knowing the assignment, but the more I started to hear him, the more I didn't want to do it. So, man, I started down a destructive path. I started going out every weekend. I started drinking every weekend. I started smoking every weekend because I did not want to hear that voice from God saying, go take care of my people, because I knew what it entailed. So I just kept running and running and running and running. And this is how you know the day is etched in my mind. I think it was November 11th or 12th, Florida State and Notre Dame were playing on that day in 1993. I had sat at my house, gentlemen. I drank so much that day before I left the club. I got off at 4:30. I worked at the Link Crisis Center. I used to be in St. Joe. Got off at 4:30 that afternoon. I drank from 4:30 to 10 o'clock till I got ready to go to East End, right? I should have had blood poison. I smoked until I got ready to go to the East End. When I got to the East End and tried to go, if you came in the back door, there was a bar back there before you actually went into to dance. Someone let me go in the back where they were dancing. So I sat down, told the guy, man, bring me a Colt 45. Bring me a shot of gin. So I'm sitting up just popping shots. I'm popping shots, you know what I'm saying? And I am literally sober. I'm literally sober. Some say, you can't do this no more. I'm not gonna let you get high. I called a cab and went home. And that was the last night that I was really in the club as a participant in that way.
Wow.
And I went home and my wife said, what are you at home for? I said, nothing. I wouldn't even tell her because I thought she was going to leave me. You know what I'm saying? She married me in May of 93 and now she got somebody coming to tell her that she married, he going to be a minister? So I wouldn't say nothing to her. I kept hiding it for a while. Finally, I went to New Paradise. You guys know James Hines? Pastor James Hines, he's from here.
When we went to Shoes.
Okay.
Yeah, but
wow.
He's out of Jackson.
Full circle.
Yeah, he was out of Jackson at the time. He was doing a revival for Reverend Willie T. Burton on New Paradise. And he had shared his testimony of how he was on his way to the NFL. But the Lord was calling him to preach, and how big of a struggle it was, and how he literally wanted to take his life. I'm like, dude, I'm talking to myself. And when he got done preaching that sermon, I got in the car with my dad that night, and I was like, Dad, I can't do this, man. I'm about to go crazy. I was riding down Milton Street, literally crying, man, and it was the happiest day of my life, and wasn't nothing wrong with me. But that's how much pressure God was putting on me, and that's when I finally went on ahead and accepted the call. But I went through a whole lot because I understand the responsibility when you take on that role of people's lives. It's not about you, it's not about money, it's not about cars, it's about people's lives. Because the Bible says that God holds us responsible for those at the household of faith. And if I'm going to give an account for you, then I got to make sure I'm being the best me to give you the best stuff. So I don't take that stuff lightly. And that's why I never wanted to be a part of it, because we're dealing with people's lives and we're flawed. Mm-hmm. And so when you're flawed and trying to deal with a perfect gospel, you will get this. Yeah. How do you look at a perfect gospel when you're a flawed person? And so I know I'm flawed. And so I'm like, God, you calling me to a perfect ministry, but I'm a flawed dude. Why? And I had to do it, man. And I've had issues, since I've been in the ministry. But, I just believe that we have to continue to lift each other up, and that when we do fall as Christians, I said when, not if, but when we fall, we have to be there to pick each other up, because no army goes around shooting their own wounded. They send an ambulance to retrieve their wounded. And many times in the church, when someone falls, we don't go retrieve them because we're so jealous of trying to throw the spot off ourselves that we leave a fallen brother and sister out there that needs to be restored. Because after all, the story of the Bible is one of redemption. That's why Christ came, if that's what you believe. So if Christ came for redemption, and I was not unredeemable to him for all the things that I did, how can I look at somebody else and say that person is unredeemable?
That's huge. So I want to back up a little bit, right? So you were PK, right? You were a pastor's kid, preacher's kid. Mm-hmm. How did your experience as a kid growing up in church under a preacher, right? Because I can relate with you, right? So how did that affect the way that you take care of your kids as PKs?
I made a decision. My dad wasn't always tough on us, but I think sometimes he made those decisions, sometimes based on his pastoral. Mm-hmm. And I got to the point, I said, I don't think that was fair. So I said, if I became a pastor, I was going to do it a little different. Now I would probably say my dad, 98% of he and I fundamentally agreed probably on everything when it come to me raising my kids. But I think the option that I gave them was, and he gave it to us, I let them be in sports. I didn't let other people saying they should be at choir rehearsal stop them from having a life. Like I said, I'm the church, so to speak. My kids go to church, but I'm the one who does the ministry. They deserve to have a normal life as a kid. So I made sure that if Jaron wanted to play football with y'all on McCourt, he played football. Jerica wanted to do this, whatever they want to do, I made sure they were able to do it. And I didn't make church be to a point they hated it. So if they wanted to do, so the things that I did, I just tweaked just a couple of things that I didn't feel was fair. And I didn't do that. I didn't let what they say affected me a lot. I hear what they say and move on. I said, where your child at? You saved? So you under the same rules that I am. Yeah. Even though I'm the preacher and you just a member, all rules to get to heaven are the same. So I said, why is it that your child can go play basketball and you saved, but because I'm the pastor, my child need to be at church every Sunday? Matter of fact, yours probably in a little bit more trouble than mine. They both probably need to be here on the altar. You know what I'm saying? So, those were the things that I decided not to do with my kids. I gave them maybe a little bit more freedom than maybe we had at first, because I came up strict. You couldn't play cards. It had nothing to do with gambling.
Man, we couldn't go to the movies.
Come on, man.
Cards,
you couldn't play spades, 3, 5, 7.
That's gambling.
You better not say shoot, because you said shoot, you might as well say it. The other word. Yeah. And if you said shoot, you was getting slapped. That was a cuss word. And how dare you say they was lying?
I didn't know how to say that. No, I didn't know how to say that.
Even if you said fib or lie, you called a grown person a lie. See, it's not it's not like it is today. Yeah. Even if a grown up was lying on you, you couldn't say they was lying. You had to take it. And so that's sometimes maybe a little bit of what I kind of changed too was I listened maybe a little bit more. But here's what my dad always told me, because I asked him that question when I got grown. I said, man, you got me a couple of times I didn't do nothing. He said, that was just for the times I know you did that other stuff I can get you for. I know you didn't do that, but I just owed you that. And he was like, son, I knew what you did and didn't do. But what he told me was, and I shared, I'll say this, what I said was, I said, well, a couple of times I got in trouble, it seemed like you didn't stick up for me. He said, oh, I got him real toe. I just didn't do it in front of you. Because I knew you was the type of child, if I did it in front of you, you was going to go back to school tomorrow and raise hell. So I couldn't let you know that I checked the teacher and the principal, because you'd have went back to school tripping. Yeah. And I had a sister who did it previous, so he learned earlier on that watch yourself. And so that's kind of things that I learned. I give my kids the same leeway my dad gave me when it came to getting in trouble at school. Just tell me the truth.
So for a pastor or a preacher, right, that has kids in church that's going to hear this, would you say they should be a father first or a pastor or a preacher first?
It's hard for me to tell them. For me, the best thing with me was I think they're all the same.
Yeah.
I don't think you can just take off the hat when you come in the door. I think I try to wear it all the time. I think one of the things that I process is, okay, I am a pastor, I am a father, I'm a husband, but I got to process all this and put it all in the right category, because after all, God wouldn't want me to have kids and then my kids don't like me because I ain't never around.
Right.
If he let me have them, I have to find a way to have balance. And I think sometimes for us in the Black church, the hardest part is to have balance, is that sometimes we're in positions that we're just not trustworthy of people. And, you got somebody cutting your throat, so you just handle all of it. But for me, I think the thing that blessed me was I was an assistant to my dad, and I was able to do things. But where I'm at now is I've been able to empower other people to free me up to do some things, because I'm still pretty young and I got a wife.
Right.
And, now that we don't have any kids, and we've been preaching my whole life, I owe her a little makeup time. Yep. So I try to make sure that I carve out enough time for her and God. Right. Because if she gone, God ain't getting the best out of me right at that point. So
I tell him, he went to the John Sam School of Management.
I tell him all the time. Look, we work. We have our first jobs. And then after that, we have this job. And we might work 12 hours a day. And I say, hey, man, it's time to go home to Quinn. You owe her. He said, I'm going to always owe her, right? Because that's the kind of thing we're doing. We're trying to save Black fathers, essentially, right? But we also can't forget about our significant others. And the reason why we do this in the first place, our kids. So you did talk about how proud you were. What is your proudest moment? And I know you got 30 years of events. 32, sorry. What is your proudest moment?
I think really, man, the biggest proudest moment for me is just being able to be there for my kids. I mean, at any given time that they needed me. I think my daughter was playing basketball junior, senior year. They probably went at all class. She probably played 24 to 25 games a year. I worked 12 hours a day. I was at Ben Harbor Charter School at that time. I went in at 6 o'clock in the morning. I got off at 6 o'clock in the afternoon. I never missed a game, but maybe one. When I left here, rain, sleet, or snow, I was on the highway going to Mattawan, wherever she was at, to find her. I mean, just for me, that's my moments. Seeing them graduate, seeing where they are struggling, but yet seeing the men and women that they started to become. And I think the proudest moment for me also is just watching them develop, and to know that my labor wasn't in vain. Are they everywhere I want them to be right now? No. But could they be far worse? Yes. And do I see the light bulb coming on? Yes. And so, that's the biggest moment for me, is when I see the light bulb come on of the teachers that their mom and their dad and, step parent, whatever, gave them. And now to see that light come on and see they start processing this information, starting to see that they moving in the direction that they're going to be successful, man. Man, all I can say, you guys, when you finally see it, it's going to be a bubbling over of sensation. You're going to cry, and it's okay. I tell Black men, we can cry. Oh, yeah. It's okay for us to cry, especially on those moments, man. But you just to see them, to know where you come from with them, because at 17, there's no manual. 18, there's no instructions. And then the world, we was in the middle of the world changing. I was born in 71, they were born in 89. That's 18 years different from what the world was when I was born, and how my dad and them did us to how they were raised. We were getting ready to go into the crack era. I'm running the streets with my homeboys. And one of the reasons, I guess, since I just got to admit it, since the Lord just told me you got to say it, part of the reason why I give back to so much of the streets was I was part of the destruction in the 90s. I ran with a rough crew from 91 to 93. We fought a whole lot, but we lived. You know, we weren't really pulling out guns. And so I feel that I owe that. I owe that story. I owe that back. I did a lot of stupid stuff that should have had a number across my chest that I shouldn't even be sitting here with you guys today. I should really have been served 20 years somewhere if things would have went the way it went that I was involved in. But the Lord didn't let any of those things happen. I fired guns, just didn't hit nobody. So for me, I don't try to be judgmental in this ministry. I just try to bless people in this ministry, because if it had not been for the grace of God, I'd have been some of these people that's dead or locked up. So I'm just proud of seeing my kids where they are, fighting now, starting to fight for civil rights, starting to pick up for other people's things, because that's a family trait. We don't believe in being selfish. We believe in being a blessing to everybody that we can be a blessing to, because somebody had to fight for us.
And I think that's why you're so good at what you do, because you can relate to the streets, you can relate to the people, you can relate to your ministry. And that's why it's a blessing for you to be here, because we want you to continue to do what you do so we can do what we do. I've heard nothing but great things about you, right? And that's a testament to your father, to you, and how you preach it, and how you father. Right, you've saved a lot of souls. I don't want you to continue to do that, because I'm gonna be one of them one day. One day, not today.
You on your way.
Hey, but a cool thing you said too when you were speaking about your kids presently, right? All of your children are grown.
Yes.
So in the Black community, we have this notion that when you're 18, hey, go figure it out, right? But when I was 18, I needed all the guidance in the world, right? More guidance than I needed ever before, right? So, like, touch on that for me. Like, what? Give me your viewpoint on that.
You just said a mouthful. I think, matter of fact, you can leave kids at home 6 and 7 less supervised than you can at 13 and 14. You know, they really are. And that's why I tell parents the mistake that we make: the older our kids get, the less supervision that they need. I needed more supervision.
Sure do.
I was glad that my dad did not let me go out some of the times I wanted to go out, because I knew where me and my friends were going. I was going to get in trouble for what we was doing. And I was hoping, man, that my dad was going to say, you can't go to Ben Harbor this weekend. You got to stay in Auckland because we got work to do, because I didn't want to have to make that decision of whether I was going to follow the peer pressure or cave or, or get out of it. So I would say to parents, our kids need more supervision. When they turn 18, stay on them, because they still don't know it. My wife would always tell me, leave them alone. I said, why? I said, if I leave them alone, they make the mistake. Guess who's paying for it?
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
It's because they going to call mama and you going to tap me and say, daddy, but you going to go back to sleep and I got to get up. So no, I'm finna say what I need to say right now. And if they don't listen, that's on them, but they can't come back and say, I didn't tell them. So I believe that we still do. I still talk to them now. I called Jaron the other day. And I was like, hey, dude, just want you to think about something. And we talked about it. He was like, Dad, I appreciate it. I said, for sure, dude, when I call you, it's never to hurt you. It's never to tear you down. I'm just trying to give you avenue to think about something different, because I still got a few years on you to where I've been through some things that you ain't been through yet, and I know how to process a little different, and I know how to see it coming. So I just think never cut your kids off, even when they get grown. You got to still be there for them. My dad, until he died, was my number one cat. When I got off work after talking to my wife, that's the first person I was calling, was my old man, to tell him about my day, whether it was tough, whether it was a good one. I needed his instructions. I would always tell him, say, man, appreciate it. So he never would not call us, boy, you should be grown and figure that out. He always gave me advice, and I'll share this with you, man. It was August of 2014. My dad knew he was going to make his transition. He wasn't sick or anything, but I knew he knew now. And he called me in his office, and he sat down. I was in his chair, and I got ready to get out of his chair to move across the table. That's just past his chair. He the pastor.
Yeah.
And he says, no, sit down. And he says to me, son, I'm getting ready to be gone after a while. No, Dad, no son want to hear that. I'm like, Dad, I don't want to hear that stuff. I'm finna get up and walk out. Can't walk out on your dad because he's still big. Sit down, boy. So, I drop down like a little chump. Yeah. And he says, listen.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. He says, when I'm gone, the people have already made you the pastor of this church. He says, but I need you to understand some things. And man, he taught me some things from that seat, getting ready to make a transition that isn't etched in my mind forever. And so I just say to parents, you can never stop teaching, because 7 years beyond the grave, everything that he told me is let me change that. God first, God first, but everything that man told me from 7 years ago is probably while I'm halfway sitting here, halfway successful and doing what I'm doing because of what he told me, and it's still echoing from the grave, and I'm 50 years old. And so just to say that back to you parents, don't never stop talking to your kids. Don't never give up on giving them guidance, even when they ain't hearing, because
We hear it.
one of the things, exactly, because one of the things that as parents, we want the seed to come up right now.
Right.
Because we drop that seed in their mind and we
Yeah.
plant in the ground. That's not the photosynthesis process. The seed is not coming up tomorrow because you planted it. It's got to be in darkness. It's got to germinate and die. It's got to have some rain. It's got to have some darkness. And it's got to have some sunshine. That's how we grow. And you're going to have all of those things to grow. And so once, as parents, we drop the seed, they tough times, they dark times, and they sunny times is going to produce what we already put in them. So just keep cultivating the seed. Got to prune them sometimes. Got to trim them off. Don't give them everything. And that's one of the things I never did, was give my kids everything, because I want them to understand that struggle is real.
Right.
Because a lot of times our men can't handle life is because they never had to struggle.
There you go.
So then they start going to the easy money, to the stick up game, to the drug game, to every other game, because they don't know struggle. And I believe for every man to truly be what he needs to be, he needs to understand struggle. He needs to understand that everything is not going to come to him because you did the right thing. Everything's not going to turn out right because you love the Lord. Everything is not going to turn out right because you've been faithful to your wife and you ain't cheated on her. There's some folk that ain't done none of those things and lost everything. So, but it builds character. It develops character. And at its darkest hour, it shows your character. And so I just believe that those are the things that makes us who we are, and we can never stop talking to our kids because they need it. I think one of the things that I pride on doing is I talk to the kids at church in a setting like this, in the pulpit at times, because they need to be able to get that from me. I know they ain't coming on Wednesday nights. So sometimes I change my whole thing and I have that conversation with them about listening, because I want them to know it and then know that they can come to me with anything. And they ain't parents only, their parents won't know unless it's talking about harming somebody or harming self. Then of course, we mandated to report or they've been harmed. But they know they can come to me and we can talk. So that's just the biggest thing, of sharing information and sharing the wealth.
And that's interesting, because I'm gonna say this, but I don't think black fathers understand how deep it is communication. You talked about like how you and your dad had these long talks, and that but it takes patience, because you best to believe he was impatient sometimes of the things that you were doing, but he stuck with it. And vice versa. Now you were impatient with your kids, but you stuck with it. We just quit. And unfortunately, it's easy to quit and it's hard to stick with it, right? So talk about maybe a tough time in your life, a tough situation in your life where maybe your kids were just being kids and they just didn't get what you wanted.
We went through a time, I'll share this because my life is an open book. I don't show any secrets. My youngest child is an outside child from my marriage, okay? And I tell people all the time, one of the biggest things I share is when you get married young, make sure you understand the significance of getting married, because when the fun side of the honeymoon and the bachelor party is over, real life is the next day. And at that age, I didn't really understand that. And probably right after, and it ain't no excuse, I made a horrible choice. But right after finally getting married at 22, probably within 2 years, excuse me, we were in a bad place in our marriage. And not understanding life, you floated that way. And so that was not one of the best moments, but it was a teachable moment. And so I believe in sharing that with people to let them know that life is tough. We go through battles, but if you learn how to overcome those things, it makes it a lot easier for it. I tell people that, for far as that story for me is because you need to understand that at the worst moment of your life, it still can be the defining moment of your life. That worst decision doesn't have to be a defining moment of your life. That was probably one of the most struggles for me because it caused my other kids angst. You know, it caused them a problem. See, when we as fathers decide to do infidelity, it ain't just you that you putting on the line. It ain't the marriage you putting on the line. You putting your kids on the line when you have them. Because what's the outcome if you get caught? Or what's the outcome if there's a child in it where you can't hide the affair? You know, if there ain't no child in it, you can deny it. You know, I can say, oh, it wasn't me, I wasn't there. Well, you got a child, that's living proof. You don't get to deny that. You have to accept that fact and deal with it. And so that was one of the moments, and it affected my kids in a negative way. My son was angry for a minute. He was real angry. He started lashing out. I was making trips to the school, different things like that, because he was young, and all they known is me. Ever since they born, we've been around each other. And so that wasn't the best moment, but that's a moment that I've learned to share with others, to understand that your decision affects everybody else that's around you. So when you're mad and things ain't going well at your marriage, and don't leave the house. I'm giving some free advice to black men tonight. Do not leave your house. If you got to sleep on your couch, sleep on your couch. Because here's what the enemy does that I believe as a Christian, what he did to me, is when you leave the house mad with your wife because he hates marriage or relationships, the first thing you do is run into people that you used to kick it with. And they still want to kick it with you.
Yeah. Where else would you go, right?
You know what I'm saying? And so now you feeling all a certain way, like you maybe not appreciate or whatever. That's when all that stuff gets into play and you find yourself in a position that because when it's over, you realize, man, what I just did was not the smartest thing in the world to do. And it wasn't smart for the other lady because you brought her into a body of confusion. And so now she's trying to grapple with the fact that she's got a child by a married man and I'm home. So, that was a tough time for me and my kids, but we made it. I would have to always say, to God be the glory. And then I just got an amazing wife.
Right.
I really do.
Right.
I come home, especially when, my daughter was younger. I would come home and she might be at the house. She was 14, 15. I come home, she in the bed with my wife. Now, for most people, that don't mean much, but ain't too many outside kids that you had being married. I ain't talking about, y'all, you weren't married and you had a child and then y'all got together or whatever. No, I'm talking about literally legally married. And my daughter would be in the bed. Matter of fact, I tell people all the time, sometimes they had a better relationship than we had. And so I give a lot of that credit always to the current Mrs. McAfee for being able to be that woman, which wasn't easy. Because I know a lot of people's like, girl, you crazy. But I think one of the things that she knew, and this is what I tell you, man, she knew at the end of the day, that one mistake was not worth throwing all of this man away. Right. And I'm not saying that in an arrogant sense, but she understood that the one part of me that wasn't the best part wasn't worth throwing the rest of me away. I had to work and earn that back, the trust and the respect back, and it took me a minute, to earn that respect and trust back. But as I say to now, it's a diamond shining.
The long game again.
It's a long game. Long game.
But that shows you as a man, right? Because you could have easily put up a fight, said what you ain't gonna do and what you didn't do, but you embraced your mistake, your bad decision, not mistake. And then now you have a beautiful daughter who obviously loves you more than life itself. Right, that's you. That's the lineage. That's the generational love that you put into play. So, man, I want to know more because what you're gonna do is you're gonna help somebody out there that's going through that same situation.
Man, just I tell people all the time, when you're going through, find people that you can really talk to, who really understand, and really who got your best interests at hand. So I'm a preacher, right? So I just got to give you a scenario so you'll get it.
Give it.
In the book of Numbers. They had sent the folk out to spy the land, right? And they came back. They sent 12 spies out. they all saw what God said was in the land, right? He said it was a land flowing with milk and honey, the grapes, the land, everything was there. They came back and gave the report and said it's there. But what they saw scared them from the promise of God. And so it made them not want what God had because of what 10 people said in the camp. I just went around the mulberry bush to say this. You got to make sure you got the right people in your camp, because everybody in your camp don't see what you see and don't want what's best for you. And so during that process, I learned to weed everybody out of my camp.
Absolutely.
You know, some people were saying, oh, well, no, don't go back, and you shouldn't do this, or telling my wife. I was like, look, let me tell y'all something. She ain't did nothing. I was the culprit. I was the clown. Anything that happened after that was on me. I'll take full responsibility for it. I just cleared everybody out of my camp. I found me a lot of times what we want to do is find people our age that's going to agree with us. I don't want people to agree with me.
Right, no yes man.
I know. I don't want nobody in my camp that's always agreeing with me. I need somebody in my camp to say, Pastor, you flat out wrong today. And I don't care if you get mad at me, you wrong. That's what I want around me, because that's going to help me be the best man that I can be. And I'm going to respect you for telling me, especially when you're not in a position maybe to tell me that. So I want people in my camp that's going to tell me when I'm wrong. Tell me, hey, bro, no, you need to go home. You know, we have a group like that, man, that if we out having fun, bro, it's 10 o'clock.
Yep, time to go.
You know things ain't been well at the crib. You need to get your butt home. I ain't going home. I said, Doc, staying out with us for 20 more minutes is not worth your wife being mad, because I'm going home when my time up. You know, so it's just that, man. It's learning that, making sure you got the right people in your camp that will help you be the best that you can be. And just knowing every situation is going to be different, and every situation is to make us better. It's really, man, everything that we go through is burning the dross and the impurities off of us so that we think better. So what I quit thinking of was that every time I went through something that God was punishing me, I did something wrong. I stopped thinking that way. I started thinking, maybe I'm doing something right. Maybe I'm doing something right, and now I'm being challenged because I'm doing something right, because I can't see God bringing all of this on me when I'm doing what's right. But if there's a God, there's got to be an enemy. So now I had to determine, is this of God or is this of the enemy? And I started realizing, man, a lot of things was of the enemy, because he never wanted me to reach my destiny. And he was sending people around me to make sure I didn't get there. And a lot of times it was my homeboys.
Wow.
Because you both know people see more in you sometimes than you willing to see in yourself or accepting yourself. And so they will be on assignment to make sure you don't. Or have you ever been around somebody and you give an idea and the first thing they say, I wouldn't do that. I don't make no sense. Well, you ain't me. But how about saying, bro, if that's your dream, go for it, and I got your back.
Right.
Even if it don't work, I'm going to be there to catch you if you fall.
Right. That's how this happened.
You know what I'm saying? So instead of just telling me it ain't going to work, how about encouraging me? But you know it's going to work because you know it's in for me to work. But what you didn't realize is if it worked for me, because you my boy, it's going to work for you.
You're preaching.
You know, it can't help me and not help you if we boys. There's no way that you boys and you get a lick and he not going to benefit.
Right.
You might not give him 10,000, but he know he going to at least get 1,000 or something. They'll get a good meal because y'all boys, he going to benefit from your blessing.
Yeah.
We have to learn as men, as black men, we have to learn to be able to look at you and say, man, I'm proud of what you're doing. How you doing it? I want to be better. I want to make this for my family. How do I get involved in this podcast stuff, man? Because I'm watching y'all, and it's really on slam. Not how John do that. He used to be this. He used to be that.
Right.
Now, why we got to attack each other because you're doing well? Why can't I look at you and just give you that props as black men and say, I'm proud of you. Help me.
I'll take the flowers.
Help me. Help me become that. But the scariest thing it is for me to be able to come and say that to you. But I've learned that growing up as a man, it is not being manless to give another man props. It's matter of fact, it's being a man to be able to look at you and say to you, bro, ain't nothing funny in me. I'm proud of you for being a black man.
Yeah.
When we can get to that, our community is going to change, because our community is in the shape because black men will not come back to leadership. We cannot continue to let, can I just be me?
Yeah, go ahead.
We cannot, brothers, we cannot continue to let our women take the lead. My dad always taught me, son, if a bill collector's calling the house, you don't send your wife to the phone or to the door to talk to her. You deal with it and tell me you ain't got the money. Now what you gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
What else can he do? He gonna come in the house and take nothing. But you don't send your wife to take care of those things, man. You take care of that responsibility. It's strange, man. And young brothers, listen to me, because sometimes y'all take this as a comfort to let your woman do the lifting. But really, it's an insult. I was buying, I'll give you the name of the place. I was at Signature Toyota, 2007, getting ready to buy a brand new car. And the salesman came out and talked to my wife and asked her what she wanted and did not say one word to me.
Wow.
I let him. I said, oh, baby, you like that? She said, yeah. I said, go drive it. It's candy apple red 2008 Camry, 4-door, gray interior. I said, go drive it. She brought it back. I said, you want it? She said, yeah. I said, he said, can I go in and write it up? I said, absolutely not. Go find me Carl Harris, who was a black man. Watch the difference. When Carl walked out of the door, first person he looked to and shook hands was who? Hey, Mr. McAfee, how you doing today? What you looking for? Oh, man, talk to my wife. She'll tell you what she want. But the other brother, the Caucasian salesman came out, spoke to her like I wasn't a man. And I told her, it's not, I'm going to say it, I told him, I said, she not buying nothing without me saying so anyway. Not that she don't have no rights, but it's a pecking order in this house. We old school traditional. Part of the problem is we don't have roles no more. In order for a family to be effective, somebody got to have a role. Are you going to be the woman?
Never.
So somebody got to be the woman. No. And it doesn't demean her position because she's in that role. What's more valuable than a person that gives life, teach the person they give life to, take care of everything. Man, the world has messed us up so much that, we think it's belittling a woman to be that now. Mm-hmm. Well, wonder why we so messed up now, because ain't nobody at home running the asylum. Dad is out working 13 hours a day, and mama working 13 hours a day so we can floss and be a power couple, but our kids on the way to the penitentiary. Because ain't nobody at home to make sure homework done, in bed at proper time. Who does all of this if everybody doing what they want to do?
Who started calling that role, right? Because the king, right? Who's the one person in the kingdom that can sway a king? The queen.
Yep.
That's the only person that
can got that influence.
Ear, right? That's the only person that can influence the king is the queen.
Is the queen. You're absolutely right.
Power.
That's right.
If you can affect power, you are powerful. So who told them they're not powerful? Like, in that role, you are powerful.
Well, because what society has done for us, and listen to me, as a black family, they understood the most powerful structure for us to survive everything we went through as a family.
Yep.
So systematically, piece by piece, they took the fathers out, and then systematically they started telling our women, you don't need them. The system became their man. Because
they actually did it twice.
You're just saying this, man.
The system
yesterday.
The system becomes their man, because you won't allow me to get a job that make me feel like a man to make enough money. Mm-hmm. So if she don't want to be bothered, she tell me get out.
And you'll pay her.
And then she go down to 8th Street and tell him, sugar daddy, that ain't nobody in the crib and she can't afford it. So they set up with a place. They give her Section 8. They give her food stamps. They give her cash assistance. And then rob me of my paycheck. And they only get $50 of the paycheck while they on the system.
Right.
You could be paying $700 a month in child support, but if they give them some assistance, they only get $50 of that money. Your $650 stay with the system, but they'll call you a deadbeat dad because you didn't pay $700, but now you don't want to cough up no money for tennis shoes because they just only get $50.
But now you can't pay your rent.
Nah, I can't pay my.
Ain't got nothing to eat.
Right.
But who gonna help you?
Who gonna help me? Nobody. But you know what? You still go buy the shoes because you're a man, because you know how to make this other thing work, because God gonna make it work because you're doing what you're supposed to do for a man. But my sister, you got to understand that it's put in that position. That's why he teaches you not to have a level of respect for the black man, because you know you don't have to, because if you don't have to get along with me, he always gonna pay your rent. But baby, have you noticed what happened when a black man ain't around to protect stuff? Chaos. And so we got to get back to that and stop letting folk outside of our community define our role. If you pay attention to a lot of other communities, I always go back to the election, and I always tell my sister, don't let other women from other cultures influence you on how to deal with your man, because they're very submissive to their cultures. You know, like I know, if all Caucasian women would have voted like they say they were, if they were appalled at Donald Trump for his misogynistic ways, we'd have never had him as the first president. But you guess what they did? They voted in line with their husband. They teach us to tear ourselves apart while they do what they're supposed to do, because here's the thing, that's legitimacy. What they want for their kids is legitimacy. They want a bloodline. And all of us in this room know, if you watch the Bible, if you ever read the Bible, just know anything about anything, bloodline is important.
Was that Judges?
There you go. People don't want us to understand how important the bloodline is for the family. That's why I always tell baby girl, don't take your son's bloodline away because you mad at the daddy. If you was well enough to sleep with him, get a baby to daddy's last name.
There you go.
Keep the bloodline going. Don't put it in your name because you're mad. Don't play games with stuff like that, because that's too important. And I'll give it to you in a simple analogy. If you have a British bulldog that's a prize British bulldog, you don't breed him with everything, because after a while, he outbreeds his usefulness. Now everybody can get one because he breeds everywhere. Now we have to be careful, because now everybody got a piece of us. And that's how you dismantle the original man. And let me say something to the young brothers out here. Y'all the original man. Quit telling everybody, don't listen to nobody tell you that. Don't listen to nobody tell you that it's a white Jesus. I don't really want to get too deep today, but don't let nobody tell y'all that, because if Africa is the central of civilization, then how does creation reverse itself and Jesus becomes lighter than me? He doesn't. Think about this. And this is why I share this with brothers, so you understand, because part of our problem is too, as men, we've left God. And we left God because we've allowed other men to deter us about God. Actually, I'm in the middle of reading a book now by Kwanzaa Kajufu. He wrote the book Counter the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Males. Excellent writer, black guy, doctor. But I'm reading this book now called Adam, Where Are You? Why Black Men Don't Go to Church. And so I'm really reading that book because I want to start connecting back, because back in the day, black men went to church. And now I'm interested in why we don't go. And I want to find out why. And because if it's a dichotomy between black men, then we need to fix it. Because that's what has kept us from always ruling anyway, is because somebody's always be able to come in between the three of us. Yeah. And we got to stop that. And so I'm trying to find out why they don't, because we got to get back in our place, because as God made us, when he made Adam in the garden, watch this, man. God is so beautiful how he set this thing up. When he made everything, even before he made Adam, he gave Adam a crib and he gave him a responsibility. He gave him the Garden of Eden to live in, and he told him what? Subdue, be fruitful and multiply. Gave him a job. But he never gave him the woman until he had the job in the crib. I'm going somewhere. Brothers, we got to get back to the point that we ain't moving in with our women.
Right.
Man.
Right.
You can't keep moving in with her, because now you've given her the authority to deal with you as a son and not as a man.
Hope you're listening, Malik.
Because every woman who takes care of a man, she puts him in the category as her son. And she starts to treat him as her son. And then he want to get mad. Well, that's what happened when you let her drive you around and she pump the gas. She pay all the bills. The house is in her name. What else is she going to feel like other than a man?
Right.
So while we sitting back saying, oh, I got one to take care of me. Nah, baby, she ain't take care of you. She's going to control you. And since you ain't got nowhere else to go because your mama tired of you, you won't disrespect her so much. She tired of you, ain't got nowhere to go. So you're going to take being belittled as a man. Because you don't want to get your butt up and go get a job to get your own place. You got to have more pride for yourself than that. And so, young brother, ain't nothing beats hard work, nothing getting up grinding. Do we like it? No, but I love my paycheck. I love being able to walk in and know that this is mine. I'm going to take care of my wife, but she ain't looking at me crazy because I ain't had no check and she coming at the check and I'm sitting on the couch with my hands on a Nintendo station. she gonna treat you like a child. So we got to get back to doing what we do.
Pastor, that was a word. I was going to ask you, did you have any advice to the young people, the young brothers, the young fathers?
You want some more? You want some more?
But you just gave us a Sunday night special, and I'm very appreciative. But honestly, you just blessed us today.
For real.
And you helped out so many people that's going to watch this podcast, so many fathers, so many black fathers. Because like you said, we've been socially, and society has beat us down. It's time us to heal. It's time us to fight back, and it's time us to have accountability partners. And let's move forward. If you got anything else you want to say, man,
I would just like to say thank you for you brothers, man, for having me. I say this with all humbleness and sincerity. I never take people asking me to come talk or share for granted. I always think that there's other people out there that do way more and do better work. So anytime you invite me, man, I'm really humbled that you asked me. And I want to say to you two brothers, man, keep doing this. We need this. We need men to stand in the gap and to do new, innovative things. So, man, and I'll say this, and I mean this, anybody know me, my money is where my mouth is. Whatever I can further this, because I call this a ministry. You know, it is. Whatever I can further to help these brothers out, I ain't talking about coming and talking, but if you need something, you call me.
Okay.
Because this is what has to get out there for our people to change. And I'm thanking God for y'all today, for letting him inspire y'all to come to share with our community, to talk and galvanize our men so that we can be the men that we're supposed to do. So I just want to tell you, thank you guys for doing this work, and keep doing it. Don't let nobody deter you. You get upset, they talk crazy, Pastor, I need a prayer. I'm about ready to snap on them. Just call me, I got you. So, but just keep doing the work, man. This is a blessed work, and I'm so proud of the both of you as young men. Keep going.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Shout out to Miss Angel Creighton, your shirts only for the Black King shirts.
Appreciate you,
we
sis.
thank you. And today was a blessing. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to unpack this one.
Yeah, this was tough. This was tough.
So many confirmations.
Yeah.
Like so many.
Yeah.
Man. That was great.
All right. Well, that's Present Pillars, the show. It's a wrap.
Peace.
What's up, Pops? What a powerful show from an outspoken and honest father. Definitely an episode worth watching more than once. Good pastors don't make churches grow. Good pastors grow people. And forgiveness doesn't change the past, but forgiveness does improve your future. Pastor Mcafee's story is one of grace and perseverance, not of judgment or perfection. All love, fam.
Hey guys, remember to like, subscribe, and ring that bell
for notifications on our next episode.
I'm all alone and I'm feeling empty. I'm paranoid, so I keep the blicky. Had to leave you in the past 'cause